Hey, how's it going? I am the Sanguiem, and I participated in a game jam! Specifically the Brackey's 2022.1 game jam, which occurred about 2 weeks ago now. I'm a little late to making this video, but that's only because I had so much footage to go through and edit. I had over 12 hours worth of footage of me making this game for this game jam, and then I took all that footage that I just edited down into 3 episodes and decided, hey, I'm gonna make this episode, which is an even more simplified version, so that, you know, I could just explain the journey in this episode right here. And if you want more information, you can see my 3-part series on how I made the game, which is going to be uploaded the exact same time as this video. So when you're done watching this one and you want to know more, feel free to give those a watch. So, the Brackey's Game Jam is something that happens twice a year. Once in the late winter, early spring, and again in the late summer, early fall. So pretty much like 6 months apart. And they span across an entire week. The way the Game Jam works is you have a theme of some sort, and you have 1 week to do something with this theme. And typically, it doesn't matter what game engine you use, it doesn't matter how you go about doing it, as long as it is a game made within that time limit, and it has that theme attached to it. The theme for this game jam was decided via a poll, and the theme for this game jam was, "It's not real." So, I had to make a game around the idea of something not real. And this isn't the first time I've joined a Brackey's Game Jam. This is the second time. The first time, I bit off more than I could chew, and I didn't end up submitting anything because I went with a 3D game approach. And I didn't know my way around Blender at all, so I ultimately was doomed to fail before I even begun, because I spent the entire week trying to figure out how to make Blender work. This time, I decided to go with a 2D approach, because if I wanted to make an asset for the game, I could just draw a picture, draw it up again in paint.net, and there it is. There's my asset for Unity. So now I will summarize the steps I took to get to what is my final product, which is a game that I dubbed The False Object. So first off, I made a list of ideas to figure out just what my game's topic will be about. I have a couple ideas here. I got locations not real, identifying what's real. I had an SCP game idea at one point. Just a few routes to choose from. At first, I thought to do identifying what's real, to do a forked path type of thing, and choosing whatever path determined what would happen. But a day later, I changed my mind and decided to go with pursuit of a false object. So first off, I start out by making a scene that would define the layout of the game. At the end of the day, I decided upon a type of walking simulator type of game, where you went through the forest, crossed a river, entered a clearing with some strange monoliths, crossed a gorge, climbed a mountain, and at the very end of your travels, there's nothing there. Not what you were looking for anyway, because it's not real. The next step was to get started. So I opened up Unity and decided to put in 2 placeholder sprites, Mr. Pebbles and the Pebble Platform, to figure out controls and camera movement. Afterwards, I spent the next couple days drawing up sprites on paper and putting them in paint.net to draw them into sprites for Unity. By the way, just a side note, while I was recording this, I didn't know what this plant was in the middle, but I found out what it was. It is a rhododendron. My mountain is covered in rhododendrons, and its smaller variant, mountain laurel. So, yeah, that's what that was. Now that I have the sprites to work with, the next step is making the map itself for the player to walk through. And I think, overall, it turned out pretty well. Some of the textures do not quite match up when continuing into a different platform sprite, but it's pretty okay. Shame I wasn't able to get to the forest, because it would have involved so much time to make the forest. But, yeah, everything looks pretty good, especially the clearing, which has all these trees and monoliths, and it just looks great. And of course, I saved the most difficult part for last, the programming. I needed to make it so that if you walk up to a sprite you can interact with, it does something. And if you walk up to a sprite that can talk, it talks to you. Just doing all that part. First thing I did was make a blackout screen so that I could shift between scenes and move things in the game. Like if you pushed the wheelbarrow to the granny's house, the screen fades and the wheelbarrow disappears. This helped sidestep around doing complex animations. The next was actually interacting with things, like providing colliders to object sprites, and when the player runs into it, it can interact with it. Stuff like that. For example, when I walk up to this wheelbarrow and hit the interact button, it then fades to black, disappears, and now you're talking to the granny. After making everything interactable, next was working on the dialogue feature. I wanted to get the interaction stuff done first, since the dialogue code could just squeeze in between all of the interaction code that I already made. And that was it. After doing all of the dialogue, everything was pretty much done. Once I built the game outside the Unity project, I realized there were many small problems, like the character was too slow, the text was too small, the resolution needed restrictions, and with 27 minutes left until midnight, I was starting to get a little scared. But everything ended up okay in the end. Apparently the deadline was a little further away than I thought, so I fixed up all the bugs that I knew about and uploaded the game to itch.io and submitted it to the Game Jam. And that's how I made a game for the Game Jam. So you'll have to tell me what you think about it. Maybe you could play the game yourself, or watch the other 3 videos for more details if you want to learn more. I will be leaving a link to the game in the description below, so if you want to play it for yourself, you can. All you gotta do is just download the zip folder on the itch.io game page. And of course, don't be afraid to also check out some of the other games submitted for the Game Jam. I believe there was over 10,000 submissions. So there are tons of different games that are likely much better than mine that have been submitted to this. So if you feel interested in that, to see how other people took a different approach for the It's Not Real genre, you know, check those out too. I will say this, I was actually pretty nervous about this game. I think I'm a bit too harsh on myself. I thought the sprites were not good enough, despite the fact that I have been told in some of the comments of my game page that the sprite art is actually pretty good, which thank you very much, by the way. That definitely helped boost my confidence a little bit, because I thought they looked terrible. So I'm very glad that somebody recognizes that they have at least some work put into them. And I was just worried about the lack of animation, like the lack of polish. I mean, this was a very big rush job. I had a lot of other things going on that I had to do during the week, so it was a real rush just to get everything together, especially making the sprites in the first place. Which half of them didn't even get to be used because I didn't make the forest I wanted to make. I didn't put trees on the mountain. There was a lot more that I wanted to do but couldn't. So I was a bit nervous about posting it, but I gotta say, I'm glad I did. This is at the end of the day, this is about getting back into game design for me, because it's been over a year since I made a game, and this was actually the first time I even finished a game. Like, actually built one outside of the Unity engine. So I think in the near future I will be making more games, and you will be seeing more videos like this one, and the other 3 that are also posted alongside this video. I'm not sure when I would start making another game. This one took a lot out of me, and I'm actually a little bit behind on editing and recording videos, so it might be a little longer. So I'm not gonna say when, but yeah, I need to catch up on other things first. But yeah, that was my Brackey's Game Jam experience, so thank you very much for watching. If you like what you saw, consider subscribing, and remember, the Wasteland is watching. See ya.